Going on, guys? Welcome to Momo Gets Money. I'm going to talk about how I paid off $20,000 in credit card debt in under a year. So basically, this happened between 2021 and 2022. I had $20,000 in credit card debt when I moved from California to Texas in July, I think it was, of 2021. Um, but I was able to pay off all of my debt. I paid it off in like less than 10 months, I think it was. But long story short was I made more money, and that was the main thing that I did. I made more money. I increased my income, and that allowed me to have the disposable income to put towards my debt and my credit cards. But to get more into detail, basically, when I moved from California to Texas, I changed my career because there was a lot of buzz around independent insurance adjusting at the time and how you can make money and all that, which I think the hype has died down a little bit, rightfully so. But there was a lot of buzz around that at the time, and I saw it as an opportunity to increase my income and to get this debt off of my head because it was weighing on my head. I had just turned 30. The debt had accrued while I was laid off from work. So basically, twice in my life, I had major debt. Both times were after I was laid off from a job because I've been laid off twice. So when I moved after COVID, basically, I was like, nah, first off, I got to get out of California. It's too expensive. I need to move somewhere cheaper where I can just get my mind right, get my head right. So I moved to San Antonio from LA, and I was paying like what 900, 950 a month for a one bedroom apartment. So very affordable. And I had a account management job at the time, but I quit that job and got my insurance adjusting license, and I got my first contract um, by like September. So I had moved to Texas in July, quit my job, got my license. I think I got like the the paperwork that I was going to be hired in August, but then it started in September for the gig. It was a contract job doing auto claims, but uh, I took that job, and that job is not what helped me to, is not the job that helped me to pay off the debt, but it was the stepping stone because I was absolutely on a mission. And that's one thing that you have to do if you have a lot of debt that you need to pay off. You need to make it your mission to make more money. You need to make it your mission to increase your income substantially because yeah, there's no other way. You need to have some conviction and be willing to take some drastic action because you're in a drastic situation. I mean, I'm seeing these days you go on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and you see these people talking about they got 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, six figures in debt. So there's people that had way worse debt than me, but I had $20,000 between different credit cards. I did not have student loan debt, car payment, or any of that. It was just credit cards that had stacked up while I was unemployed, basically. So after I got my license and I took that first contract job, I knew that I was going to use that to get myself into one of the higher paying positions. And, I just needed to get my foot in the door and I was going to hustle my way in. And that's basically what I did within like 3 months of doing that first job, which the first job didn't pay bad. I mean, I was working like 60 hours a week, 26 an hour with overtime. It actually paid was not that bad. I was probably making over 5,000 a month at that time even. Um, but I really was able to take off with the debt payments when I took a second contract gig after that because the pay structure was very, very nice. Basically, I got paid a daily rate of $350 a day. Um, so I only had to work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, but I had the option to work extra. So I had the option to work on the weekends. And so I would get the daily rate. I would just get more work. That's it. But I had that option to work weekends. And so $350 a day, Saturday and Sunday, that's $700 extra a week just by working on the weekends. 700 times 4 is 2,800. So basically, by working every single day of the month, I was able to increase my compensation by 2,800 a month, 700 a week. Needless to say, I did not take a single day off for like 3 months while I was on that contract because it I would have been leaving money on the table. The money was too good. Uh, so basically, I worked every single day, 8 or 9 hours a day. I think it was 8 hours a day. I worked every day. I did not take days off. I worked Saturdays, Sunday. It was a remote job, so I was just in my apartment, but I worked every day. I did not take a day off for months. I think I started getting burnt out towards the end, and I started taking like Sundays off. But like for at least a couple months straight, I worked every single day because that money was too good, and that's what allowed me to have the money to pay off my debt very quickly. I started paying off my smallest credit card because I had one credit card with the main bulk of the debt, and then I had a few other smaller cards that had like 1,000, 2,000, but then I had like one card that had like 15,000 on it. So as once I got that higher paying job, and I'm like, okay, I'm I'm on my money routine now. So that's when I started paying off all the credit cards from smallest to biggest. So within like a month and a half, less than 2 months, I had already paid off the small cards. Then I was able to just every paycheck where I had disposable income, first paycheck of the month, I would pay my rent, my utilities, insurance, all my, regular expenses that I had. Then after that, I put all my money towards my credit card debt. Um, and I want to say I had everything paid off by like April. Um, so less than a year because I had moved to Texas in July. Literally was had no job for a month because I had quit my job and was studying for my adjuster's license. Then I got the job, the first job, then worked that job for 3 months, then got the other job that was very high income, and that is what allowed me to pay off the debt by April, May at the latest. So that's basically how I did it. My expenses were low. That's another piece of the puzzle is make sure you cut your expenses. I already live frugal, so I don't like to harp on about expenses because you can only get your expenses, so low depending on your circumstances, and everybody's got to figure out a way that works for them. But for me, I rented a $950 apartment in San Antonio, lived by myself, little one bedroom, didn't eat out much. I already live pretty lean, so for me, the missing piece of the puzzle was just I need to get more money. Um, Everybody has to know themselves. So if you know yourself and you know what your spending habits are and kind of how you operate, you got to cut the BS, cut out the frivolous spending, cut out the nonsense, cut out the dinners, the Uber Eats, cut out any vacations. You're not going to Disneyland or Disney World. Like, you know yourself. So when it comes to expenses and spending, cut the BS. But realistically, um, you can only get your expenses down so low, and you need to make money. You need to make extra money, catch up, get those interest payments down, and start taking huge chunks out of those debts. Like I said, I did it just from smallest to biggest, one credit card at a time. So within a couple months, I had already paid off like the smaller credit cards that had like, 1 to 2 thousand each. And then I was able to tackle the big debt and get that completely paid off. Um, I froze some of my credit cards at that time to make sure I wasn't spending on them. Um, but yeah, the main thing was I made more money. Whether you have to work a second job, whether you have to do some type of side gig or side hustle, um, whatever you have to do, you need to bring in more income and take some type of drastic action. Like you gotta make it your mission. You gotta make it your mission. You gotta be willing to take drastic action because the situation you're in is probably already drastic. So you gotta make some type of moves. You might have to get a roommate. You might have to move in with your parents again. You might have to make some big choices, at least temporarily. Doesn't have to be forever, but you're probably gonna have to make some changes because whatever you've been doing, it's not working. But everyone's different. People have different living situations and different capacities for things. So you kind of just got to figure out what's going to work for you. Whether you got to start driving Uber, whether you got to start pulling extra shifts at work, whether you got to find a new job completely, or whether you got to add a second job, whatever it is, you got to make more money and know yourself, cut the BS, keep the spending low, make it your mission. When I was in debt, it was literally my mission to get out of it. Like every day before I got that job, I was thinking, how can I get more income? What can I do? What steps can I take? And I had conviction because, I mean, in some ways it was lucky, but I mean, at the end of the day, I had a plan and I executed it. I know the job market is tough right now, way tougher than it was in 2021, 2022. So you can't necessarily compare, but there's still jobs out there and you got to just figure something out for your situation. How can you make more money and start chipping away at that debt? Because if you let it sit, that interest is going to kick your ass. It's going to keep getting worse and keep building up. Those minimum payments are not going to cut it, and you will be trapped in that debt cycle. So make it your mission to make more money. Take drastic action. Know yourself and cut the BS with yourself. And then just look at your own situation. Think, what can you do right now or within the next 1 to 3 months to make more money and to increase your income while keeping your expenses as low as possible? I don't think paying off debt is complicated. It might not be easy, but it's definitely not complex. So that's my advice. Get more money. You got to get that money. So that was basically how I was able to get myself out of that situation. I was able to do that in less than 1 year. I mean, I moved cities, I moved states. I got a new job in a new industry that I had not worked in before, but it all paid off and I was able to get out of that situation. So good luck to y'all. Put a comment um, if you got debt and you know what you're trying to do to get out of it, and let me know what you think. But yeah, that's my advice: is make it your mission to make more money. All of us have some type of option of how we can make more money. I don't care if you're a warehouse worker or a burger flipper or an architect or a lawyer, whether your industry allows for, doing some type of freelance work or find a consulting gig or work extra hours, find a graveyard shift somewhere. Everybody can find something if they put their mind to it and they make it their mission. So, good luck to y'all.